It's absolutely apptacular. The Subject Cinema Android app. Everything you need to be a rabid Subject Cinema fan. Subject Cinema, 3-Minute Weekend, Tuesday Digidex, and Front Row 5 and 10. All right at your fingertips and available instantly. Plus, email and voicemail links, Facebook and Twitter hookups, Patreon support specials, and more is coming real soon. Don't just listen, app it. The all-in-one Subject Cinema podcast app. Android version available now at Google Play or on PNR Network websites. Amazon and iPhone apps coming soon. Don't delay. Download today.
Blueberry. This podcast is a member of the Blueberry Network. Blueberry. No E's. That's Blueberry, BLUBRRY.com. Blueberry.com.
This podcast is a proud member of the Lamb Podcasting Network. Find the network at largeassmovieblogs.com.
On air, online, on now. From the hub of the universe, Boston, Massachusetts, USA, this is Subject Cinema, with your hosts, T.C. Kirkham and Kim Brown. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome TC and Kim.
Acting. Wow. So is that your final answer on the Fantastic Four movies that we watched? Oh, that's your final answer. Okay.
Welcome to Subject Cinema. I'm T.C. Kirkham.
I am Kim Brown.
SC19 Subject Cinema number 627? I wrote it down wrong here. And we are coming to you on a weird day, Tuesday, day and date, March 26th, 2019. We had some issues over the last week and we missed it, but we're still in the middle of Masochistic March, which is going to bleed into Masochistic April for 2 weeks. And we'll explain that at the end of the show because we're still going to get all 5 of our things in. We're only on number 3.
Yep.
And we couldn't do it last week and there's all kinds of stuff going on. So, yeah. This last week was really a kind of a pain, and we had all kinds of trouble trying to schedule time for stuff and get things in. We finally forced it through and getting it done so we could get this up at least a little bit more than a week later than we intended. But it's been kind of crazy, and I don't know that it was worth it or not.
Oh, it was worth it from a point of view where that we can actually tick those things off of our list of things that we needed to get done.
Right. So we have a couple of things here for you and a couple more things, and we'll talk more about that as we get to it. But first off, because we're already late enough, let's not waste any more time. Let's get right to it. Masochistic March continues with 2015's Fantastic Four. Okay. Is it really fantastic?
Well, you know, fantastic can actually be used a couple of different ways. You know, it's like the word awesome. Everybody thinks when you talk about awesome, when you're like, oh, that's awesome, you know, like, oh, I got like all A's on my report card, or, you know, I just met Chris Evans or something like that. You know, you think, oh, that's awesome. But also awesome can be used in a way to say, like, you know, talking about something awe-inspiring and terrifying. You know, like if you were standing there looking, large, terrifyingly large. Like if you were like standing there looking up at Godzilla.
And also,
or something.
also can be used to describe another thing.
Yeah?
The Miz. Awesome!
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could.
None of which factor into this week's show.
But fantastic can also be used as, oh my gosh, that's a fantastic dress you're wearing, or, like, that's a fantastically long amount of time to, like, have to wait at the DMV or something.
It's the third official film, the fourth unofficial film. And we're starting with it because it's the newest one, and it was one of the lowest rated movies of all time on Rotten Tomatoes by the critics.
Yep.
From 2015, Miles Teller, Michael B. Jordan, Kate Mara, Jamie Bell, Toby Kebbell, and Reg E. Cafe in Fantastic Four. The Four, Fantastic, the A in Fantastic, stylized with the number 4. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Okay. The story of the Fantastic Four is actually, well, I think everybody knows the story of the Fantastic Four, really. But to explain what this movie decided to do with it, we'll go that way. All right. We see two young men in a classroom, and they're kids.
They're young men,
they're
kids.
Young kids
They're
in a
preteens.
preteens in a classroom, and one kid is at the desk, at the podium up at the front of the desk, and talking about what he wants to do when he grows up, and he wants to invent a teleporter. And the other kids in the class kind of snicker, and the teacher's very dismissive, and I'm kind of like, well, I would have said I want to invent a machine that makes teachers obsolete if you want to be that much of a jerk about it. But one kid actually is listening to what he says and seems to think, hey, this kid actually seems like he's really smart. We find out that the young man that's at the podium, his name is Reed Richards, and the kid listening to him is a kid named Ben Grimm. Ben and Reed become buddies. It turns out Ben's family owns a junkyard, and Reed winds up sneaking into the junkyard to try and get some parts for his teleporter. And neither of these kids seem to have the best home life. Ben is physically assaulted by his loudmouth bore of a brother, and it doesn't seem like Reed gets along with his stepfather, who seems to be perfectly honest, like a bit of an a-hole. But Reed and Ben become buddies, and they wind up growing up together. They start off as preteen friends. They wind up staying friends through high school, and they wind up at a science fair where Reed's invention, he's been working on this teleporter since he was a child, it actually works. It causes a crap ton of damage, but it actually works. At this science fair, Reed and Ben are approached by a doctor, Professor Franklin Storm. He is a director for the Baxter Foundation, which is a government-run place where young prodigies are brought to try out their, it's basically like the scientists of tomorrow kind of thing being backed up by the government. And Reed winds up being asked to join this organization and help out Franklin's children. His daughter Sue is a scientist, as we find out she's an adopted child, and his son Johnny, they're working on a quantum gate. That sounds really safe. Which is a device that is being designed by the protege of Professor Storm, a young man named Victor Von Doom.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah.
Foreshadowing.
That kind of hits you with all the subtlety of Triple H's sledgehammer.
Ooh, that's good, yeah.
Yeah, seriously. Victor Von Doom, because his parents couldn't name him Evil McBad Guy, because that would have just been too dang obvious. Yeesh! So they start working together reluctantly, because Victor is the poster child for the phrase that I know a lot of us had written on our report cards back in the day: does not work and play well with others. Man, if I had a dime for every time I had that on my report card. It turns out that these 4 young people working together actually makes this experiment actually work. And the quantum gate opens, and it turns out that they've opened up a gate to another dimension. Which I know sounds incredibly nifty, except for the fact that the place that they've opened up to looks like downtown Mordor. And seriously, I'm sorry, I would not look at that and go, oh, vacation spot, here we come, next Disney World, right there. No, I don't think so. But the people that run this place, including Dr. Allen, are very impressed with the fact that, hey, you got it open, but okay, we're going to send some grown-ups over there, so pat you on the head, kids, off you go to bed kind of thing, because adults. Needless to say, Reed and Sue and Johnny and all them are ticked off at this idea. So Reed, Johnny, Victor, and Ben get drunk and decide that they're going to...
Well, no, Ben isn't there yet.
Oh, no,
Ben comes in.
Reed, Johnny, and Victor get drunk and then call Ben, who the first thing he says to them is, "Are you drunk?" Because it's like, 2:00 in the morning or something. Mm-hmm. Because they've decided that they're going to use the quantum gate. They discovered it. They got it to work. They discovered Planet Zero, which is what they're calling this place.
What Dr. Storm is calling this place, yeah.
Because that sounds like some place you want to go. It's, I guess Hellgate.
I don't know. I'd rather go to Planet Zero than Planet Fitness any day.
I guess calling it Hellgate Plane of Destruction, somebody already took that. So they wind up doing this, and they actually wind up amazingly showing up on this planet, and nobody's, missing body parts or anything like that. But like I said, this place looks mondo creepy. And there is this kind of, there's this running stuff. It's almost like lava or magma or blood or something. It's almost
green.
like...
It's not blood.
No, but it's like blood. It's almost like the planet's alive and these are like veins or something.
Yeah. Any volcano looks like that if it's an active volcano.
Yeah.
So.
Because whenever you see a bunch of green melty stuff that looks like it could possibly, come alive and eat you, you definitely want to put your hand in it. You should definitely do that, said nobody ever. Which, of course, Victor does. And all of a sudden, he touches this stuff because he's an idiot. And that's not nice. But, curiosity cats, there's a reason that statement exists. So he touches this green stuff, and the whole planet starts going crazy. There's like rocks falling everywhere, and just stuff goes nuts. So they all rightly run back to the shuttle. Sue is on the other side of the shuttle on, planet Earth.
Having figured out what they're up to.
Yeah.
Ben now having joined them here.
Yes.
He's the strong guy.
Yeah.
Strong arm guy.
Ben actually did go with them, if I didn't mention that before. So, the thing is, as they're running back to the shuttle to get the hell out of there before who knows what happens, Victor winds up falling. Like as they're running, the ground is literally falling away behind them as they're running, and Victor doesn't make it back in time, so he just plummets and we don't see him again.
They tried to save him, but
they did try to save him, but they couldn't save him, and it looks like he's dead. So Johnny, Ben, and Reed do make it to the shuttle and make it back, but the problem is that as they're making it back, the quantum gate, to use a very scientific term, goes kablooey. And they're bathed in all these lights and everything just goes absolutely mental. And it turns out that this is something that has changed them. Reed can stretch his body like crazy amounts of, he's dragging himself along after the explosion trying to get to Ben, who's yelling for help. Reed is like dragging himself along the ground and then realizes, his foot's still back there, but now his leg is like, his leg is about like 3 feet longer than it was.
Oh, it's a lot longer than that.
And Sue, as it turns out, can become invisible, and she can also manipulate. Is she manipulating light or is she manipulating air? I really don't quite know. But she can do this whole thing where she can turn herself invisible, and she can also use her ability to create force fields that can act as a shield, or she can surround something with the force field and pick it up. And like, by something, I mean like big, heavy things. Johnny has become this being that is completely engulfed by fire, which also somehow makes him able to fly because...
Reasons.
We'll go with reasons. And Ben, oh, sweet Caroline Ben.
Poor innocent
Poor Ben. Ben winds up becoming covered with rocks. I mean, his body, we don't really know what the deal is. I mean, if his body is changed, if he's just completely encased in this rock armor or what.
No, he became rock.
Yeah, he had. Okay, yeah, he has, his whole body has changed into this rock-like material, and he's also grown a lot taller. And as we find out as the movie goes on, he's extremely strong and could probably have a nuclear bomb dropped on his head and shrug it off. So needless to say, because these are young people who now have all these amazing abilities and are probably scared out of their mind, the government does what they always do in these situations and isolates them and doesn't tell them a darn thing. Your government in action, folks. And they decide they're going to basically use these kids as weapons or whatever they need them for, because they feel like, well, we own them. Our stuff gave them their abilities, so now they got to do what we want. As they're dangling, oh, we'll get you a cure somehow, sooner or later. Reed is torn apart by guilt from what has happened to his friends. He doesn't really seem all that concerned about what happened to him. He's concerned about his friends, and he winds up escaping from this place and doesn't bring his friends with him. He's trying to...
He doesn't have any way to get to them.
He doesn't have any way to get to them, but he does tell them he'll come back for them. That doesn't happen.
Well, it does, but not the way he expects it to.
No. So we flash forward a year, and Reed is now a well-documented fugitive from the government, and has built a suit for himself, because if he doesn't have a suit that like can control this, I'm assuming he'd all just kind of like be like a wet noodle and just kind of like slurp on the ground. I don't know. I don't really want to find out, to be perfectly frank. He's on the run in Central America because that's where everybody shows up. I mean, the Hulk. I know.
No, the Hulk was in Rio.
Oh, that's South America.
Yeah, that's South America.
Right.
That's Brazil.
Right. Good point. I will refrain from making any World War II jokes.
No, that's Argentina. Anyway, let's move on from there.
Moving forward and not touching that. Sue is conscripted to help find him by the people at the Baxter organization. And he winds up being caught. And
she finds him because there's patterns to everything. They explain earlier on in the movie when he first arrives at the Baxter building and tries to like make conversation with Sue, and she's listening to music. She describes music as just a pattern of sounds and noises.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, well, that's just wonderful.
I'm like, congratulations, Reed. You found someone more socially stunted than you.
Yeah.
I didn't think that was going to be possible. Oh gosh, they're going to breed. So anyway, this leads to...
Not in this movie.
No, not in this movie. So this leads to a reunion between Reed and Ben that is not all hugs and how you been, buddy. As it turns out, this past year, I don't know how else to word this, and I hate saying it this way. Ben's basically been used as a blunt object by the United States military. I don't think that's being too unfair.
No, I think that's right on the nose.
Because that's...
He's doing in this movie what they described Dr. Manhattan doing in the Watchmen movie in Vietnam. Mm-hmm. Going in and destroying everything in its path.
Yeah. I don't think he's killing anybody.
No, I don't know.
Well, he's certainly not blowing people up with a flick of their hand like Dr. Manhattan could do. But somehow I'm thinking to myself as we're watching this, yeah, that looks an awful lot like you're trying to find him a cure. Oh, no, wait, it doesn't. So Reed is brought back to the compound, and it turns out that Johnny and Sue also have these outfits that are designed to help them with the abilities they have and keep them in check, so that, because apparently Johnny's heat apparently doesn't set off every sprinkler system in the joint.
No, because it's not heat, it's just fire. There's not necessarily heat involved because it's an energy fire.
Okay. Ow. But anyway. And I'm assuming that means that if Sue didn't have that outfit on, she'd just kind of wink in and wink out
Probably.
like a wonky television. Yeah. I'm not really sure. So they wind up at Area 57, where Dr. Allen has Reed working on the rebuilding the quantum gate and dangling the whole, we'll give you, we'll try and help you with the cure carrot over his head, because that's a really, I gave up swearing for Lent, so I can't really say what that is. It's a really Richard move. You guys can think.
That's not a swear word.
It isn't?
Not as far as I'm concerned.
It's a dick move.
Okay, there you go.
It's a dick move.
Okay, enough. Family show.
It's a bureaucratic,
yeah,
really lousy thing to do to another human being. So they get the quantum gate working again. They put it, rebuild it and get it all working again. And the Dr. Allen sends another group of people over there who
team
are
from NASA.
It's the original team from NASA that was supposed to go over there in the first place. And while they're exploring this planet, and it's not freaking out that people are touching it and picking up rocks and stuff like that, so I guess it's had a year to calm down, they see a figure in the distance walking toward them. 2 guesses who that is, and the first guess doesn't count.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yes. As it turns out, the person is Victor. Victor has been living on this planet apparently alone for a year. Or however long time passes on Planet Zero.
A year plus a few weeks.
Well, yeah. Well, my thing is, we don't know how long time passes on this.
Don't get into schematics.
Well, I'm just saying. It's a different dimension, and time could pass differently. So there.
Right.
See, I do pay attention to scientific-y stuff.
Okay.
Victor has looked better. I'm trying to be tactful.
Okay.
Well, Victor's in one piece.
It's kind of cool, actually. But.
Actually, to be honest, I was like, that isn't as bad as I thought it was going to look.
No.
But we don't actually know what he looks like under the outfit, because we never see him again.
Right.
Without the outfit on, because the outfit is fused to his body.
Right.
Ew. And considering
the uniform that he had when he went over there, the spacesuit,
the mask and everything, it's all fused to him, and it's all black. It's all been burnt black
and silver
now, and
where the silver came from, I don't know.
And there's little bits of green running through it because whatever happened to him in that year, he
became one with the planet,
eating whatever it is that
I don't know
ate.
He was eating anything. We never mentioned that. So
no, but you got to assume that he had to be eating something. I don't think going to another dimension is going to automatically cancel out your need to.
It could feed him just the energy.
Okay.
Anyway.
Well, all right. No, that's a good point.
We're getting off on
besides
here.
the fact that Victor now has this kind of sort of pseudo Darth Vader thing happening, as it turns out, he also has telekinetic abilities that he didn't have before this little jaunt over to Planet Zero. So it's the scientists are all like, "Oh my gosh, he's injured. We have to bring him back," because he's definitely playing up the wounded bird routine. When they see him, he's like limping and being all like, "Help me," kind of thing. And so they bring him back to Earth. And the problem is, if Victor wasn't the most social chap before his little vacation on Planet Zero, that's gotten worse. Victor's whole thing before he left, before that jump through the quantum gate, he brought up a lot of times that humanity was, ruining the planet and blah, blah, blah. He was very much a pessimist. Well, now he's a crazy pessimist. I mean, crazy like a sack of ferrets. Crazy. His whole thing now is that the entire human race should be destroyed so that he can make Earth the planet that it should be according to his ideas. that doesn't sound really good for the rest of us, especially since it seems like he has the ability to make this happen, because now Victor, like the whole telekinesis thing I mentioned, apparently part of said telekinesis is making people's heads go boom without, a gun or a laser or whatever, just looking at them and kersplat.
Yeah, but Dr. Allen had it coming.
Oh, the doctor had it coming.
He was a dick.
Yeah. He definitely.
Sorry, he was.
He was a complete jerk, and it was really, I don't know, it was satisfying a little bit sick.
Schadenfreude?
Yeah, it was definitely Schadenfreude.
Yeah, okay.
Enormous Schadenfreude. And so Victor escapes from the room that he's been locked into, and that takes him all of 2 seconds. And as he's walking through the base, killing pretty much everybody he comes in contact with,
including Dr. Storm.
Yeah, he winds up killing...
motivation.
Yeah, he winds up killing Dr. Storm, but not before the doctor, while he's lying there on the floor dying in the arms of his children, makes, does the whole kind of, make this work, and I'm dead. Thing.
The money's in the...
Oh, come on, it's not... No. No, it's actually very heartfelt and sad. So...
Then why were we laughing? Anyway.
Because we're sick. Well, because we were both sitting there going, and we're going to have the heartfelt message in 5, 4, 3, 2, and there it is.
Okay.
Victor goes back to Planet Zero through the quantum gate, and Ben, Johnny, and Reed go after him. So now Victor's...
Sue.
Huh?
And Sue.
And Sue, I'm sorry. Didn't I say Sue?
No.
I'm sorry. So now we have this big battle on Planet Zero where Victor, whose whole thing is now this whole, there is no Victor, there is only doom. I'm like, yeah, but that's your last name anyway, brah. It doesn't, I'm like, it doesn't, seriously.
No, technically Von Doom
Von
is his last name.
Well, would Von be the middle name?
No.
Oh, all right. Okay. Well, then that actually works better, though, because Von Doom is a bit too clunky. So he winds up creating this portal on Planet Zero using the energies from the quantum gate. And the thing is, this basically is a black hole. There's no other...
It starts to Sokovia everything.
Oh, yeah.
That was the first thing we said. Gee, this looks familiar.
This looks awfully familiar, but it looked better in the other movie. And it had Chris Evans in the other movie, so the hell with this. But the energy goes through the quantum gate into Earth, and it's, sucking up trees and cars and
people.
No, actually, we didn't see any people.
Yes, we did.
I didn't see.
There were tons of people flying through that thing.
Oh, all right. I didn't see anything.
Oh, yes, there was.
Okay, so the thing is, when the stuff gets sucked up through the portal,
black hole portal.
He's
making a black hole that'll suck the Earth into it.
Well, what it's doing is
that's exactly what Reed said he was doing. He's making a black hole that will suck the Earth into it. That was right out of the movie.
Yeah, but he needs more power to do that.
Yeah, he's starting it.
Yeah, and as it's
getting like the fat black holes that Spock was making in Star Trek.
It's like the stuff's getting sucked in and getting converted into energy, which is fueling the gate to make a bigger black hole.
Right,
pretty much.
Right.
So they wind up.
Even though that's not how black holes work.
No.
Anyway.
Well, apparently they do in this dimension. So there. So there's the obligatory battle between the heroes and the bad guys, and Ben winds up socking Doom and sending him flying into the energy beam of the portal, and he disintegrates. And that happens,
does he?
We're assuming he does. Yes. We're led to believe by the movie that he does, and we don't get anything we don't get any close,
There's no Skeletor at the end.
There's no mid-credit scene to
There's no Skeletor at the end, Frank Langella reappearing in the 87 Masters of the Universe.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And Johnny manages to shut the portal.
I should have done that one, that movie's terrible. Anyway.
Yeah. They wind up, they make it back to Earth, and the military, to thank them for, making sure that the planet didn't get blown up,
Well, the military wants to continue their current arrangement, and they're like, no.
Yeah, they're all like, well, we'd like to keep you working for us and helping us out and stuff like that. And they're all like, yeah, there's going to be some changes. Mm-hmm. And the military's at first kind of like, well, what if we don't like the changes? And basically, they all four look at them like, TS. We've got a rock.
I got a rock.
And it's really pissy. So they are given a base, which is actually not the Baxter Building in New York, which I was like, okay. They're given this place called Central City. I'm like, does the Flash know about that?
Does DC know that they've had their intellectual property mangled? Okay, anyway.
Although watching the Flash and the Human Torch try and figure out who can go faster, that would actually be really kind of fun.
Flash would run rings around him. Anyway.
Oh, all Flash would have to do is run around him in a circle super fast and suck all the oxygen out, and then there's no more.
It's not oxygen based anyway.
Fine. And they're all standing there above this. They're standing on a balcony looking over their new base, and they're trying to come up with a name for their group. And it's very, they're just joking around with stuff. And Ben mentions something about this being fantastic. And Reed asks him to repeat it, and Ben does. And he says, he opens his mouth like he's going to say something, and the movie ends.
I still think he said it, but we're both on that. Okay, Miles Teller as Reed Richards, Michael B. Jordan as Johnny Storm, Kate Mara as Sue Storm, Jamie Bell as Ben Grimm, Toby Kebbell as Victor Von Doom, Tim Blake Nelson as Harvey Allen, Reggie Cathay as Dr. Franklin Storm, cameo appearances by Dan Castellaneta as Reed's grade school and later high school teacher, Mr. Kinney, Tim Heidecker as Reed's stepfather, Mr. Richards, and a quick cameo from Chet Hanks as Ben Grimm's older brother in the early scenes. Mm-hmm. This movie is not as bad as the critics said it was. I don't think. That doesn't mean it's a good film. I just said I think it's watchable. Its cardinal sin is that not that it's laughably bad. Its cardinal sin is it's dull from beginning to end. It is deadly boring until about 55 minutes into the movie.
It is dull. It is
tediously dull. I'm sitting there trying not to fall asleep.
It is joyless.
And I gotta be honest. You guys, if you've listened to this show for any length of time, you know that my list of my all-time worst actors on the planet, Miles Teller is near the top. And damn it, I actually like him in this film. Drives me crazy.
It really is kind of aggravating because I actually like him too. And
I couldn't stand him in Spectacular Now. I haven't liked him in anything I've seen him in. And this one, I'm like, damn it, he's actually the one good part about this film. Michael B. Jordan is completely wasted as Johnny Storm. I just don't like the way they wrote the character.
You want to talk about wasted? Let's talk.
Oh, Jamie Bell.
Yeah.
Poor Jamie Bell. He got the shaft.
Absolutely.
And he did all the CGI work for Ben, too. I mean, he was in the suit, motion capture suit. And Jamie Bell, again, on the other list, he's on my all-time favorite actors.
Yeah.
He just totally got screwed in this film. Especially the early part of it. He's there for the first 5 minutes of it after he gets this science fair through and they get this offer, and then he disappears for 25 minutes. It's like, what the hell? And they only come in, and it's just a convenience out of convenience that a drunk Reed calls him to come do this thing, and he's like, okay. What? Any sane person would have said, no, F you, Reed. I'm going back to sleep.
Yeah.
Seriously, the CGI on this film is terrible in most places. Ben's the best thing about it.
He is.
The thing is awesome. Johnny Storm's stuff when he's on the ground is fine. The flight sequences look like Kirk Allen's Superman. They're just terrible. They're just terrible. They didn't really do much with Kate Mara's invisibility stuff.
Nope.
The stretching stuff was pretty good in most places,
Yeah,
too.
It wasn't bad.
It was better than what we would later watch.
Oh, yeah.
Well, at the very end. But, in all fairness, I wrote my full review of it is up on Letterboxd. it isn't a terrible film in the way that the critics, I mean, it has a 9% on Rotten Tomatoes. Mm-hmm. In all fairness, I gave it 2 stars. I actually liked Miles Teller's performance. The script is not half bad if it is, they needed more action. But the interaction between the characters is fine, I think, for the most part. I loved Toby Kebbell's Dr. Doom. As Victor. I thought he did a great job as Victor before he fell into the green stuff and turned into the monster, which was also not terribly well done. The planet was good. The CGI on the planet Mordor was fine. But I liked the way Toby played that character. You could sense the underlying, I mean, if anyone who thought Reed was self-centered, an egomaniac, not necessarily an egomaniac, but completely in his own little world. Yeah. Victor was 5 times worse.
Yeah, definitely.
So it was interesting in that way. But I like the score.
And I
got to be honest, I'm hopping on the bandwagon. Release the Josh Trank cut. Toby Kebbell actually saw Josh Trank's original cut for this film before he got in this big tussle with Fox, and they canned him from the project and recut it themselves. And Toby Kebbell said he put together a great film. Prove it. Release it. Because I'd like to see that, just to see what he did differently. Yeah. Because Josh Trank's Chronicle is one of my favorite movies of the past decade.
Mine too. And part of that was Michael B. Jordan, who was incredible in that.
Michael B. Jordan is a more than competent actor who I just adore, and he's been on our Rising Stars list. He excelled in Chronicle. He was terrific. I mean, he's gained all kinds of critical acclaim as
Eric Killmonger.
No, that's not where I was going.
Sorry.
The Creed movies. I forgot. I don't know what his first name is.
Adonis.
Creed.
Adonis Creed. Yeah.
Eric Killmonger was my least favorite part about that film, but it was the character, not him.
Oh, okay.
And I mean him from Black Panther, and I love him in practically everything he does. This movie, this character, the way it's written, it isn't the Johnny Storm I remember from the comics. Here, he's self-centered, arrogant, obnoxious. Johnny in the comics is a hothead, but he cares about his sister. He cares about his friends. Here, he didn't really give a crap. He was there to earn money to get his car back, and he let him know that from the beginning. That changed as it went on.
Yeah, I was going to say that's
really
the way that's the way he felt at the beginning.
It was that way he felt afterward too.
I don't,
because he was all prepared to do what Ben was doing. Didn't really care whether Reed came back. So I mean, and to everybody who had a fit about the casting, about them making the Storm family African American, it doesn't even play into the movie. I don't know why people are freaking out about it.
Because some people are racists.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all there is to it.
They did it strictly because of, they said, it was strictly because of the ethnocentricity of the current mindset of Hollywood.
Well,
it wasn't necessary, but it doesn't hurt anything. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, my whole thing was when it came out that the character of Johnny Storm was going to be African American and the father's African American, as it turns out Sue is adopted.
Sue was adopted, right.
I was like, oh, neat.
Yeah, it didn't bother me from the beginning. I thought that was kind of weird.
Who cares? It really doesn't make that big of a difference.
Although you remember at the time the movie came out, I said it's going to cause a big, big flap.
Yeah.
And it did.
Yeah. From people who probably wouldn't have gone to see it anyway.
Right.
And they're screaming, oh, I'll never go see this movie. Good, we didn't ask you.
I think that I think the biggest problem this movie has is the cardinal sin it commits.
It's boring.
It's boring, and the storyline is once the action gets going, which doesn't happen until more than halfway through the film. Once the action gets going, it's not half bad, and the last 15 minutes are pretty fun.
Yeah.
In the big battle, but it's like, why did you make such a cerebral movie? I mean, it's attempting to be Bryan Singer's original X-Men and not even coming close. That was the one good X-Men movie Bryan Singer did. And I like that one, but this one tries to go there and gets the cerebral part in without worrying about the action, and it doesn't work.
I just feel like it lacked heart.
Yeah, there's no soul. It's just dead. And it doesn't help. I mean, again, I did like Miles Teller in this movie, which is astonishing. But the character of Reed Richards is so... I mean, it's like he's sleepwalking that's wrong, because I like the way Miles played the character, but in this character, the character doesn't have the same love for the other characters the way that, until the very end, the way that he has from the beginning, because they're all a team and they, Reed cares about everybody in the original comic.
I mean, everyone always says, it's a comic, trope, if you prefer, that, Reed Richards is a jerk. Yeah. And, Reed Richards is a jerk. He can be kind of condescending.
He's egomaniacal.
I don't know if he's egomaniacal. Not really. He just wants...
he likes to be proven.
He likes to prove that he's right. I don't know if that's really...
That's an ego problem.
Well, to me, an ego problem... No, I'm just saying, to me, an ego issue like that is somebody who feels like they have to have their name on everything.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Reed's whole thing is he feels like if he's right about something, he wants someone that he feels is his intellectual equal to acknowledge that he's right.
Right. Problem is, in the Marvel universe, there's only maybe 2 people that qualify that way.
And
Tony Stark and Professor X.
Yeah, and the fact that, for the most part, usually Reed's comes off as kind of a jerk.
Yeah.
And this time, he didn't. I actually was like, you know what? He's actually kind of sweet.
He was more of a not self-involved. That's not the word I'm looking for. His tech becomes before relationships. I don't know how to describe that.
Well, from what little we see of his childhood, that may have been a defense mechanism.
It might have been, yeah.
We have both been there. We know what that's like.
And he does clearly care a lot for Ben.
He does.
The 2 of them are close friends.
They are. And I wish that had been talked about more after they had changed.
Again, let's get the Trank cut out there. I want to see what he did with it, because I want to see if they change that dynamic.
Just real quick, to give an idea what this movie accomplished, Dr. Evil quotes, at the 36th... At the 36th Golden...
It's an award winner!
Yeah. At the 36th Golden Raspberry Awards, sit down for this, it won again, Dr. Evil quotes, for Worst Director, Worst Prequel, Remake, Ripoff, or Sequel, and was tied with 50 Shades of Grey for Worst Picture.
I don't think it's fair that they gave it Worst Director, because... it isn't the director's cut. This is the cut of the suits at Fox who didn't like what the director was doing with it.
Yep.
Which is the same thing that happened way back in the 80s on Superman 2.
Yeah, the problem is the suits were probably looking at Trank's movie going, we can't sell toys with this.
Right, because it was too cerebral, too dark, and probably would have been rated R. I'm going to be honest. If you are a diehard Fantastic Four fan, you're going to be appalled by this film.
Yep.
Considering the trailer made it... Now, everybody was raving about the trailer. Oh, my God, they finally got it right. And then people saw it and like, oh, how could they have gone so wrong?
Yeah.
But I have to be honest. I would call it a guilty pleasure in many ways, because I wouldn't mind watching it again, because it's not as bad as they said it was. It's not a great film by any imagination, but I don't think it's nearly as bad as the critics said it was, because the performances, especially Miles Teller, I can't believe I'm saying this, especially Miles Teller, help save it a little bit, and particularly Miles Teller and Kate Mara and Jamie Bell when he's there. But I really like Toby Kebbell, who has already said at one point he's not interested in doing a sequel if they ever came along, which it's not going to, because it was a total bomb at the box office. So that's 2015's latest take. Now, the question is, what will happen to the Fantastic Four now that Fox is owned by Disney? This brings the characters at long last into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it will, I think, be rebooted, I'd say no later than 2022. I bet it'll happen as the starting segment of the next leg of Marvel films after the one that Endgame concludes. There'll be one cycle and then something big, and then they'll start off the next cycle. We'll see what happens.
Blockbuster or bomb, it's all good for us. This is Subject Cinema.
eCinemaOne is your choice for great info and commentary about the world of film and entertainment. Daily trailer postings, the latest news and film reviews, commentary about the state of the industry, the weekly Subject Cinema and 3-Minute Weekend podcast, and so much more you won't believe it. New material is being posted daily, so join us each day and see what you're missing out on. Once you visit, you will always be back for more. eCinemaOne from PNRNetworks, eCinemaOne.com.
Subject Cinema! Run for the hills! Get out of the way! Get out of the way! Move!
What is the matter with you?
Don't you see, you silly fool? We're doomed! Doomed, I tell you!
Would you please stop? Stop shaking! If you don't stop shaking me, I am going to throw up all over you.
Actually, the movie is doomed.
And
the
we've
untold
seen
story
that.
of Roger Corman's Fantastic Four. This is a documentary released around the same time that the version of Fantastic Four we just talked about was released. Mm-hmm. Wow, I've had this on my I've actually had a screener for it for years, and we never watched it. And it's like, okay, let's sit down and watch this for the Fantastic Four stuff. And you know, I'm pretty impressed. This was a very fascinating and interesting film.
Not only am I impressed, I'm angry.
Yeah.
This movie made me mad as beep. Because it's just such an awful
But
thing
we both agree that some of the stuff that's implied in this film probably isn't accurate for reasons that are financial. At the end of the film, we had discussed about that.
Yeah.
This movie talks about the version of the Fantastic Four that was made in 1993 by Roger Corman's New Horizons pictures.
Yeah.
He'd sold and Constantine Films. This film was shot on a $1 million budget, which in 1993 was minuscule, but still fairly on the high end of low budget. And in today's dollars, we estimated that would be probably somewhere around $30 million with inflation. The film talks with quite a few people, including most of the stars of the film: Alex Hyde White, Jay Underwood, Rebecca Staub, Michael Bailey Smith, Joseph Culp, Kat Green, and a couple of other people, plus a lot of the production crew, which included, I got to find his name here, the music of David and Eric Wurst, which they talked about. They had extensive interviews with director Ole Sasson. And it's fascinating. It's interestingly enough that several key people declined to appear in the documentary, including the late Stan Lee and current head of Marvel Studios, Avi Arad. Mm-hmm. I mean, Kevin Feige is up above him, but Avi's top in the group. Neither one of them would be seen on camera. It talks about the making of this film and how Corman had been approached by Constantine Films to make this because Constantine's option on the Fantastic Four was about to expire. They needed to get the film into production by the end of 1993, or he would lose the rights to it.
Yep.
And they had to do it on a shoestring budget.
Oh, yeah. And it kind of showed. Well,
and in the clips.
It did.
It did.
But,
and, I mean, it has a good cast. And, I was unfamiliar with, I had not seen Joseph Culp, who was the son of, actor Robert Culp, who played Dr. Von Doom, or Dr. Doom, and, Alex Hyde White, who is the son of Wilfred Hyde White, legendary British actor. I knew them, and of course I knew Jay Underwood. He was everywhere in the 90s and 80s, and like Not Quite Human, and The Boy Who Could Fly, and all these other things. I didn't really know Rebecca Staub that well. Michael Bailey Smith, I'd heard the name, but didn't really do it. Carl Cianfalo was actually inside the Thing costume. And Kat Green, I didn't know either. She played Alicia, Ben's girlfriend. Is that right, Alicia? Is that her name?
Alicia, yeah.
So it was interesting to hear them talk about making this film. And they all gave it everything they had to do this.
Yeah, they did.
They were actually amazed that they could pull off anything with that kind of a budget in that day and age.
Yep.
And then they actually Alex Hyde White and Joseph Culp started spending money to send themselves to conventions to promote the film. There was a trailer released for the film's release, which was supposed to be in the summer of 1994.
It was on the cover of Film Threat
magazine
with a really big write-up that was done by someone who was on set for
Chris
most
Gore.
of the film.
Chris Gore, he also talked to him in this too.
Movie.
You remember Chris Gore from when he was on MTV News all the time.
The really strange thing is that while the movie's being made, the movie's being shot, everyone's working on the film, and then once the movie's done,
it just kind of sits there.
The studio is very reluctant, and by very reluctant, I mean not doing anything, to hype up this film. Like you mentioned, the cast is going...
Well, Corman's got still photos he's willing to give them.
Right.
That's about it.
But they're not willing to pay for their transport to cons. They're not willing to do anything when it comes to this film, which has a lot of people who were involved with the film kind of scratching their heads and going, what the heck? Because, the strange thing about movies is when you make them, you usually expect them to be, I don't know, call me wacky, released.
The people who worked for New Horizons, Roger Corman's company, were excited because they, at the time, were a straight-to-video company, and this was guaranteed a release in theaters. That it was probably going to play about 500 screens, which is small. It's what we call a limited release in this day and age. But it was supposed to get out in screens, and then the rumors started floating when they were going to have a premiere of the movie at the Mall of America. And Alex was promoting it, and they got the cast together, and Alex and Joseph were financing part of it. And then they got a cease and desist order and said they can't do it. So that came from Marvel. Now, it turns out that Stan Lee had actually made an Icon appearance that noted there was a movie coming out and that he didn't really expect that much from it. And they were going to go on to bigger and better things, which, was said during the filming, and he'd visited the set and everything.
Yeah.
And that kind of destroyed the cast. I mean, they were working hard on this.
Yeah.
It ended up getting shelved because Marvel and Constantine Films made a new deal with 20th Century Fox. And Fox squished it, pretty much.
Yep.
Bought up
because
the rights,
their idea was to make
Prince.
Their version of the Fantastic
Right.
Four, which we've all seen.
It's not bad. It's not terrible, but it's not great either. It's better. I'm talking to the mid 2000s ones, were the ones with Ewan Griffin, Jessica Alba, Chris Evans, and Michael Chiklis. I'm not talking about the one we just reviewed. This one is. This was interesting in the fact that I wasn't that familiar with it. We'd seen it. It leaked sometime in the mid 90s. We first saw a copy of it on VHS. We think it was either at the Marshfield Fair.
Yep.
That would have been 96, 95, 96. Or at Visions, which was 97, 98.
Yeah.
We saw a copy of it on VHS. We didn't
We might have seen it at both.
Yeah, we might have. And they had it on one of the monitors, but we weren't really paying attention. Because at the time, I just thought, I thought Jay Underwood looked ridiculous anyway with blonde hair. Because he's normally a brunette. I was like, oh my God, he looks ridiculous
I heard the words Roger Corman and then Fantastic Four, and my brain went, run!
Well, it wasn't as bad as it could have been.
No.
Because Constantine Films originally approached Troma Films to do this.
Not knocking Troma for what you do, which
Troma
is what
an
you
expert
do.
at what they do.
Yes.
And they have loads of loyal, devoted cult fans, and
True.
they deserve them.
And they do.
Of course, there is a big budget version of Toxic Avenger in the works at, I think, 20th Century Fox.
Really?
I think Jason Momoa is attached to it. Somebody big is attached to it. I forget who it is. But it's like...
I have to go off and curl up in the corner and cry right now. I'll be right back. Oh, man.
Some big name is attached to it.
Oy.
So
seriously, Roger Corman is not the first name you would think of, especially in a couple of years when Roger Corman again would get involved with the superhero genre with that opus on the Sci-Fi Channel, The Black Scorpion.
opus.
Your fault.
Anyway, it was told to them through the friend of a friend of a friend that there was never a planned release for the film. It was just to keep the rights.
Yeah.
We disagree with that. Some other people disagree with that too, including the director. Because no way would Corman have spent over $1 million to make the film if it wasn't going to get a release. I mean, even as a tax write-off.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. He had publicity photos made. He was, talking it up to magazines, and then it suddenly went away.
Yeah.
So I don't think it was ever just a, rights print. Although I don't think they had much real plans for it either.
I think they maybe thought of releasing it. Maybe they thought about releasing it and then went, nah.
The Captain America movie had bombed so badly that it never got out. I swear I saw it at the theater.
Yeah, the Captain America...
They said, I'm told it never came out, but Ohio, where I lived at the time, was a notorious test market, and I swear it played Regal Cinemas in Lancaster for 1 week when it was out. I may be wrong. It might be the Mandela effect hitting me. I don't know. But I have that memory, so I don't know.
Like you mentioned, the Captain America film that at the time, this is not the Chris Evans version.
No, this is the one that starred Matt Salinger as Steve Rogers / Captain America.
Yep. We have neither of us seen that. What I have seen of it hurts.
I've seen bits and pieces of it, and I feel sorry for him wearing a rubber costume.
So, but the whole idea that you would have people perform and then just kind of shut it away.
Especially after they spent the money on the mask for the thing.
I think that's awful.
They had a servo mask that made the thing really logically be able to look like he's talking, and it was great.
Yeah.
It worked great, what we saw. So anyway, this is a fascinating documentary, and it's worth seeing. You can go over and check it out at Amazon Prime, where it's free for Prime members, or $3.99 for rental if you're not a Prime member. And it got us curious, a little too curious.
Yep.
So we went searching, and we found it.
We did.
There's a lot of movie talk happening here. This is Subject Cinema.
eCinemaBoston is your best choice for all the latest news and info about happenings in the world of film here in the hub of the universe. Local theater listings, ticketing info, reviews of local venues, spotlight on Boston actors, the latest film shoots, and a whole lot more. If you're in the Metro Boston area, you need eCinemaBoston from PNRNetworks. Once you visit, you will always be back for more. eCinemaBoston.com.
The best movies! Subject Cinema!
Okay, so you remember what we said about finding something and going to look for something and all that stuff like that? Remember what
It's not really that hard to find.
Remember what I also said earlier about curiosity and cats? So, there's this version of the Fantastic Four out there that everybody's heard of, and probably not a lot of people have seen or bothered to go chase after because they've heard how terrible it is. It's a version from 1994. Well, I know a lot of people would be like, you would have to be a complete dummy to go look that up. Guess who well, think about who's doing this podcast. So we did it.
Yep.
And
it's available. You can find it on YouTube.
Yep. For now.
No, it's been there for years. Nobody seems to care, so it's interesting.
So,
it's pretty much a rehash of the original movie we talked about a couple segments ago.
It's actually, to be perfectly honest, though, it's actually more in line with the comic.
Yep.
In certain aspects.
It is actually credited by most people as being the most faithful to the comic.
Yeah. Because the whole thing of, instead of having this whole gate into another dimension, blah, blah, that they did in the 2015 version, this version actually has Reed, Ben, Sue, and Johnny going into space And they're bombarded by cosmic rays, and they crash back on Earth, and they've got powers, and Reed can stretch, and Johnny can burst into flames, and Sue can turn invisible, and Ben... Poor Ben. Ben basically turns into a rock golem. Yes, I just made a D&D reference. I don't care. Shower me with hate.
Now, we do see the beginning, which takes place 10 years earlier.
Yeah.
And at the time, Reed and Ben are living in the boarding house owned by Johnny and Sue's mother.
Yes.
So they know all of each other.
Yeah, that's how they know each other. Yeah. And even back then, Sue had a crush on Reed, which was really kind of icky.
Well, kids do that.
Yeah, I know, they do. Also, back when they were in college, Reed and Victor were working together, and they were friends.
Well, they were marginally friends.
They were as close as friends
you could get with work colleagues.
Yeah. They were trying to use there was this comet that was going to be passing very close to Earth. It was very rare, and they were going to try this experiment, and the experiment winds up, going wrong, and Victor winds up with the scars on his face and dead. Believed to be dead. Believed to be dead.
At first.
He gets better. Or worse, depending on how you look at things. Also in this film, unlike the 2015 remake, Victor actually is in line to be the ruler of Latveria. They actually bring up Latveria in this film as opposed to the later one, which they don't talk about at all. So we have the whole thing with the team getting doused with cosmic rays. Everybody changes. And, Ben's got the whole, oh, poor me. I'm all lumpy and orange now. Earlier on in the film, he had literally run into a woman and knocked her to the ground and smashed her statue by accident.
This is before they had their trip.
Right. And she is a sculptress who is also blind, and she and Ben have this instant connection. Unfortunately, she has also attracted the attention of this creepy little dude known as the Jeweler, who has this army of homeless people that he takes in and also has them do his bidding, and he's got his eye on Alicia too. Now, the reason that stuff wound up going so incredibly wrong with the flight that the four of them took was because there was they were using this diamond to try and
diamond. We both agree there could not be such a diamond like that.
Yeah. I'm like, diamond. Yeah, that's not a diamond.
It's quartz.
Yeah.
It looks like quartz.
It looked really pretty, and I'm sure it cost him quite a lot of money at Natural Wonders, but that's not a diamond.
Ooh, there's a company that's been out of business for 20 years.
Yeah. The jeweler wound up swapping out the diamond for it with a fake, and that's why the whole thing happened on the ship where everything went all crazy and they got doused in cosmic rays, blah, blah, blah. So, as it turns out, when they crashed back on Earth, they are picked up by the U.S. military, who, as it turns out, in a twist worthy of M. Night Shyamalan...
It's a twist!
They're not the military, and it's not the United States. They're actually been captured in Latveria, and these are men who work for the ruler of Latveria, Dr. Doom. Which Reed doesn't instantly tweak on, that's an odd name. I knew somebody with that name once. No, he seems totally
Well, that was Von Doom.
Yes.
But I'm saying it's been 10 years. Reed's got his new fake little gray spots there. And so it's like, he's kind of forgotten.
I guess.
Although he hasn't, because he brings them up during the trip. And
the Hamptons Doom? It's like, anyway. So.
Yeah, they live next door to Ina and Jeffrey Garten.
Stop it. Because of the scarring that he went through and because he's nuts, Victor's got this whole outfit that he wears now. It's an entire suit of armor thing that he wears, and it's all very comic booky, but it works.
Yeah,
actually,
it's right out of the comic book.
Amazingly enough, and we get the big climactic battle between good and evil, and so on and so forth. And by the end of the whole thing, Victor is defeated, and it seems like
And Ben has rescued Alicia. And she's felt his face and realizes it's the same person that she said, I love you to, when she hadn't even met him.
Yeah. But she doesn't care because it's true love. And,
for Pete's sake, okay.
Reed and Doom have this climactic fight where Doom falls over a parapet, and Reed tries to save him, but Doom is basically like, I'll rather fall than be saved by you, kind of a thing. The thing is, Reed leaves the glove where it is because he slips his hand out of the glove and falls like this, crap ton of way down. And we don't hear anything hitting the bottom that even remotely sounds like a splat, so I ain't buying it. And the thing is, when Reed leaves the glove on the stone, we're both sitting there going, and how long is it going to be before it starts to, yep, there we go. It starts
doing a crawling hand imitation.
Well, no, it doesn't actually move. It's just kind of like doing that whole kind of finger tapping
twitchy,
motion.
Twitchy.
So the movie ends with a wedding, hooray, of Reed and Sue getting married. And we see Alicia standing with Ben because she doesn't care that he looks like a rock golem. She loves him anyway. And that now they're going to, go out there. They've banded together. They've accepted their powers, and they're going to fight evil together as the Fant4stic Four.
Which somebody gave them the name of before they even did anything.
Yeah, the mom.
Yeah, Mom.
Yeah. And the movie, thankfully, ends.
With Reed waving with his arm stretched 10 feet above the limo.
Oh, the sunroof.
Out the sunroof.
Yeah.
Alex Hyde White as Reed Richards, Jay Underwood as Johnny Storm, Rebecca Staub as Sue Storm, Michael Bailey Smith as Ben Grimm with Carl Ciafalo in the Thing costume, Joseph Culp as Victor Von Doom, Kat Green as Alicia Masters, Ian Trigger as the jeweler, Annie Gagan as Mrs. Storm, Robert Buth as Dr. Hoffman, their professor, and Ricky Dean Logan as the busboy, which kind of gets freaked out by Ben's appearance.
Yeah.
You know something? This movie is better than the one from 2015.
Yep.
It's got heart.
It's got heart.
This movie, for a movie that wasn't even supposed to be made, it's not, don't get me wrong, it's still a bad movie.
Oh, yeah.
But it's another one I wouldn't mind watching again.
It's earnestly bad, though.
Yeah. And I was surprised Jay Underwood actually looks good in blonde hair. The publicity still that they've produced for this movie way back in the day that appeared on the cover of Film Threat. Look at this picture of Jay Underwood. Mm-hmm. He looks ridiculous.
Yeah.
And all of them kind of do. But, he pulls this off, and it actually, the effects for the money they had weren't bad.
No.
It was actually suggested in the Doomed documentary that Disney, now that it owns Fox, should re-release this film in a video form. One, as it originally appeared in 1994, and two, a second disc with all of the CGI replaced by current effects. And I'm like, they'd probably have more success with that than they had with the 2015 version.
Maybe.
I'd buy it. I think it'd be interesting.
I'd definitely watch it. I'm not sure I'd buy it, but I'd definitely pay to go see it in the theater.
Like I said, this is also could easily be a guilty
This would be
pleasure.
something that'd be really neat at a Fathom Events kind of a deal. If they would actually do something like that.
Yeah, I would do that. And I enjoyed this. I actually give it 2.5 stars as compared to 2 stars for the other one. And it's fun because the cast is obviously having fun making it.
Definitely.
We didn't get that vibe from the new one.
No. Definitely got a feeling of the new one that it was just, we're doing this, let's get our paycheck.
Yeah. The current,
and it's not knocking the acting.
No. This one, I actually enjoyed quite a bit. And the music is great. It was put out by David and Eric Wurst. They contributed $6,000 of their own money, funding a 48-piece orchestra to record the score, which they never even asked them to do. They didn't expect to do it. They did it on their own.
Yeah.
And we're blown away by it. I gotta say that everybody behind the scenes they talked to in the documentary that was involved with this, were really, really something. I mean, I like, what was his name? Ole Sasson, the director. He seems to have a real interesting perspective on how things were done. This movie has a higher approval rating from critics, 33% as opposed to 9% for the 2015 one.
Yeah.
And it actually has been on the Wizard magazine list of the top 50 comic movies of all time, and some so bad you've just got to see them. It ranked higher than Batman and Robin, Steel, Virus, and Red Sonja, all of which were released in theaters. So that says itself, it is terribly low budget, but it isn't half bad.
No, it's not. They definitely tried super hard with this movie. And I thought the cast was fantastic.
Yeah.
I really liked, again, I was like, this is just weird. I liked Alex Hyde White as Reed.
Yes, I think he does the best of all of them. I wasn't terribly impressed with Ewan Griffoe in the mid-2000s movies. He was okay, but
he had kind of more of an absent-minded professor vibe.
Yeah, that's exactly why I didn't really care for him. And I like this Reed could easily have been Miles Teller's Reed when he was younger. Mm-hmm. So it was interesting.
I liked Jay Underwood. I liked his take on Johnny.
I like him much better than I liked Michael B. Jordan because the character was written true to the comic as opposed to redoing everything for the way that the new one was done.
And the lady that played Sue.
Rebecca Staub.
Right. I thought her Sue was really fantastic because Sue is supposed to be not, I don't know how to say this and not sound like it's insulting because it's kind of insulting to say that anymore. She's definitely the heart of the team.
Yeah.
You know, she's the one that makes the uniforms for them. And I'm like, you know, I mean, some people might be like, oh, that's sewing, that's women's work, that, you know, you're you know, like perpetuating stereotypes.
Well, she made those in the original comic.
Yes, she did. And to be perfectly frank, they're much better than the one outfit that she had for a little while where she had the 4 right up here and the 4 was cut out so you could get this window for her boobs. I'm like, good grief, people. Did we really need to do that? I mean, you did not need to slut up the character of the Invisible Woman. And it's just not necessary.
Yeah.
But the one person I want to bring, and both gentlemen who played the Thing, they were really cool. Although I don't get the whole thing where he is the Thing and then he's not.
He
and then
retransformed back when Alicia's held by the jeweler and she says, I love you, and it transformed him back into his normal persona.
For some reason. And then he
he got enraged and he went back. They were confusing it
I'm
with
like,
Hulk.
guys, it's like, you got your Hulk mixed in with my Thing, man.
Ew, that sounds so wrong. And more to the point, Alicia loves him as he is, feeling his face.
Yes.
Gee, I wonder what that relationship is going to be like when it comes to doing the hibbity-dibbity.
Kind of brings a whole new meaning to Rock Your
Hard.
World, don't it?
Oh, Rock Hard.
Rock Hard.
Yeah. Anyway, the Fantastic Four 1994 version was made for $1 million in 1994. Now, here's my comparison to this. I was talking to Kim about this, the other night. In today's money, that's probably somewhere between 10 and 20 million with inflation. Mm-hmm. Now, take this movie for $1 million back then.
Yeah.
If this movie $1 million now, back then would have been $250,000 to $300,000. $1 million now in 2015, the same year that the new Fantastic Four came out. $1 million was put into. Is that right? I gotta look that up. I thought it was $1 million. It might actually be more. Between $1 million and $3 million. I know that's right. Were put into another movie outside of America, where they produced some of the best special effects you've ever seen, some of the greatest scripts that you ever see, so much so that it won a ton of that country's equivalent of Oscars that year.
Yeah.
The movie was called The Wave, and it was the first ever disaster film made in Norway. Their budget in today's dollars was the same thing that the budget for Fantastic Four was made for in 1994. That's terrifying. You can find the original 1994 version on YouTube, Dailymotion, probably on Vimeo, and everywhere else. You just got to look to find it. Nobody's really hiding it. And in all honesty, it's an hour and a half of fun.
Real movies for real people. Subject Cinema.
All right, Kristen, I am so excited that you've decided to do a podcast with me, but what are we going to do a podcast about? There's so many other movie podcasts. We got to do something original.
Well, I'm a big fan of Disney movies. What about something like that?
That's just kid stuff. What do we want to do that for?
Did you know that The Avengers is a Disney movie? Or that Pulp Fiction is a Disney movie?
Pulp Fiction is not a Disney movie.
It's technically owned by Miramax, which is part of Disney.
We are still going to talk about the Disney animated movies, though, right?
I thought you said that was kid stuff.
Well, I've got 2 kids. I got to be a good dad and stuff.
So be sure to subscribe to the Walt Sent Me podcast, where we discuss the various subsidiaries of the Walt Disney Studios, including the animated movies.
It's available on iTunes, Podomatic, and wherever you find great podcasts. And I swear, it's not kid stuff.
Subject Cinema.
Just clarifying, The Wave was made for $6 million, so that's a little more. But back then, that's about the equivalent of what it would have been that movie was made for back then. And I'm like, are you kidding? And it won 6 Academy Award of Norway. And it was Norway's official entry into the Academy Awards that year. It wasn't it didn't make the shortlist, but it was still, and the critics loved it. And Quake, the sequel, which came out in October in most of the country, August in Norway, and October in the rest of the world, became a pretty big hit also and had the same kind of budget. So it's like, okay. This has been a fantastically fun week. Mm-hmm. Fantastically bad week. But it's been fun. Yeah. There were also, we were going to bring up, but we really don't have time. We were going to talk a little bit about the Fantastic Four cartoon from the 70s, which featured Sue, Reed, Ben, and Herbie. Herbie the robot. Herbie the love robot.
No!
Oh, no?
No.
The little Volkswagen that beat
No.
Okay. Anyway.
And no.
We're not going to go there because that was really bad too. But anyway, we want to wrap this up so we can get off here. Now, be sure to check out all of our other shows. We're not going to run down the whole thing of them. You know what they are by this point. You can catch them all on eCinemaOne or Platinum Rose's Garden or Catastrophe, Vortex, or Aunt Bee's Nerd Grotto, or so on and so forth. You know where they are. There's links to them and show notes at every one of them. I don't know how much longer they're going to be going because as we talked today, the idiots in the European Union passed that devastatingly harmful internet bill, including Article 13 and Article 11. So we're kind of floating to see what we're going to end up needing to do. It's going to take a few weeks for the fallout to really start settling in. But we'll keep you informed on the website at eCinemaOne and also here. We also want to tell you, we're going to continue this. We have 2 more films to do. Catwoman and hopefully Indian Superman? Mm-hmm. It may have to be South Indian Superman because we can't find the full Indian Superman anywhere. They will come up our first 2 weeks in April. We will be off next weekend and we'll be back on April 6th with Catwoman as part of our masochistic march in April, as we'll call it, like we did last year. We did the same thing last year. And we'll have a few other things as well. And all throughout this coming weekend on eCinemaBoston.com, check out what's going on as we report to you with little bits and pieces from the Salem Film Fest in Salem, Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. We'll have a few audio things up, possibly some video stuff up, and Instagrams and all that stuff, so be sure to check that out. Kim is at Platinum Roselle. Yes. At Twitter. I am at eCinemaBoston, eCinemaOne, and TKR Online. The Kirkham Report's been probably going to be completely devastated by this new thing, this new rules. All on Twitter, and you can email us at subjectcinema at PNRNetworks.com. Mm-hmm. Anything else you'd like to say?
No, I can't think of it.
All right, let's move on out of here then. For Subject Cinema, I'm T.C. Kirkham.
I'm Kim Brown.
May your popcorn always be buttered.
And may your roses always be in bloom.
Oh, Catwoman.
Hey, how bad could it be?
I can't believe you just said that.
You have been listening to Subject Cinema with hosts T.C. Kirkham and Kim Brown. Subject Cinema is produced by PNRNetworks, Boston, Massachusetts, which is solely responsible for its content. Subject Cinema theme performed by Eric Lyon. Subject Cinema is recorded and produced using Sony Vegas products. Subject Cinema is copyright 2018 by PNR Networks under a Creative Commons license. Check out a new episode of Subject Cinema every weekend. Until next time, this is Bob Taylor for Subject Cinema, and we'll see you at the movies.
That's all.
Podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.
PNR.